first of all, thank everybody for coming today. It's an exciting time. No matter what level you're at, opening day is always a special time. So whether it's little league or high school or college or professional baseball, it's the start of a new beginning, and it's exciting, especially not just for us as the staff, but we got 29 new players on our roster. So I'm sure that's been talked about quite a bit. I think we got the largest number of portal transfers of any team in the country. So we got 15 portal transfers along with 14 freshmen. So that's 29 new players that this is going to be their first time playing, at the light, and the excitement that brings. So we're all very excited. We love the team that we got right now. The chemistry is, from day one, it really stood out how close they are in the clubhouse and how much they do together off the field. That's always a good sign. The more time teams spend off the field together, the better team they're going to be on the field. So we're very excited about it. Our pitching staff is as deep as I can remember. 21 years as a pitching coach. I don't remember ever having a bullpen and a staff as deep as this one. So if you look at some of the changes and improvements we've made, that's definitely one thing that really stands out. Another thing we set out to do this offseason is to bring in some offense to protect Cuvée and hit around him so teams couldn't pitch around him. And we felt that we've done that as well. We've addressed a lot of holes that we had, that we felt we had. And I think we've done a great job. Credit to my staff going out this summer and being able to plug those holes and improve the team and the program the way that we did. So very excited about the season. And with that said, I'll open up to any questions that we might have.
JD, with nearly 30 new players, only I think 8 or 9 returnees, how do you build a culture, build chemistry, and build the program where you want to with all these new players coming from different places?
I think it's where college sports is today. I think it's about rebuilding a roster every year. Maybe not as drastic as we had to do this year, but it's become more the norm. And that's something that we work really hard. Laz Gutierrez with our mental skills, and really every Wednesday in the fall was very little, with no baseball actually. It was all up in the classroom and really building team chemistry and stuff like that, doing different exercises. It's a big part of it. So.
What surprised you the most about the transfers that have come in and kind of already buying into what you guys are trying to build and hopefully make it far?
Well, we set out from day one. It's not about the sexy name or the big names. It's trying to find guys that have performed in the past, and maybe coming from a mid-major or a school of different levels that they want to prove to themselves and other people that they can do it at a Power 5. So it's the maturity that they brought was the biggest change. Especially from last year, we had a very young team last year, a young roster, especially pitching staff. The maturity level that they brought in, and they understand. For a lot of these guys, this is their last chance to play college baseball, and for some, maybe playing baseball. Period. So I think the way they take every day and the opportunity to get better and the appreciation to be here is the biggest difference that we've seen so far.
JD, you mentioned protecting Cuvée in the lineup in the batting order. So the majors now, a lot of the trend is to put like your best hitter second. What sort of thinking have you? And that'll probably be evolving throughout the season. But just your thought process on how to construct a lineup that best supports him.
Well, whether he hits second or third or first or fourth, he's always going to be the focal point, I think, for any other pitching staff. But I'm a big believer in having a left-right combination, and kind of, as a forward pitcher, I know it's uncomfortable when you got a lefty and a righty, back to back. It doesn't give you a chance to get comfortable with your secondary stuff, right? You might throw a changeup to the righties and a break them up to the lefties. So by having a line that's left-right, it's just you don't get that comfort level. So I think we have the guys to do that. As far as the order, like you said, it's going to be whatever we start with on Friday is going to be different. A few weeks on the road, I'm sure.
JD, do you see platoons happening?
In a couple positions, maybe in right field. Other positions I think are pretty much set. Right field and maybe first base would be with the opportunities to platoon somebody.
JD, with so many new guys, have you had enough time to figure out roles and who does what, and are you comfortable going into the season yet with so many new guys?
Never really comfortable. As far as figuring it out, I don't know if that's the right word. I know what we're going with. And guys are going to have the opportunity now to run with it. We're going to put a lineup out there Friday, and to be honest, hopefully there aren't too many changes. That means guys are doing their job and we're having success with it. But there's always ups and downs. There's always injuries, always different things that come up throughout the season that forces some changes, and sometimes those changes that you're forced to make are the right changes.
How different has this been with so many new guys for the first time, like you said? How different has it been for you?
You know, it's been fun. It's been fun. Again, just the enthusiasm that they bring to the field every day. It's been a really, really fun group to work with. Again, the first challenge will be Friday night when the first lineup goes up and there's only 9 hitters in the lineup and 1 pitcher on the mound. That's when you know chemistry gets tested a little bit. But I think with the maturity level that I've seen so far, that's something you have to battle no matter what. But this is a very mature, older team that I think we're going to be okay with.
Coach, you mentioned bringing in players to kind of get around Cuvée so that the opponent can't only focus on Cuvée. What are you telling those players that are hitting before him or right after him about their role?
Well, I mean, they all got their own role. Their role is not to protect Cuvée. Don't get me wrong. That's not what they're here for. But they all got a job to do. And whether you're a leadoff guy to get on base and get in just one position for not just Cuvée, but whoever's hitting behind Cuvée, you know, everyone's always has a job to do. It's more about having the players with the ability, right, to do damage around him. That they're going to get better pitches to hit. If you're hitting in front of him, you're going to get better pitches. And if you're hitting behind him, you're going to get more opportunities. So, in the long run, if everybody does their job, then he gets more pitches to hit as well.
A lot to be said about the difficulties of kind of overhauling the roster, but on the positive side, what are some things that you've been encouraged about seeing about kind of overhauling the roster?
Yeah, I think we've got the right guys. Whether the best guys, stat-wise or ability-wise, I don't know that yet. We've got the right guys as far as attitude and makeup and character. And again, that's what we set out to do. So we set out to get the right guys to come in and buy into what we're trying to do. You know, and not just get guys that are just individuals and just out to worry about themselves and what their stats look like and what their playing time looks like. So again, we feel really good about it right now.
I know you guys had alumni weekend and just, you know, the excitement of that, but what's now that feeling of getting things started? You know, the goal is big. You guys haven't been to Omaha since 2016, and just kind of knowing that Friday will set the tone of what you guys want to accomplish this season.
Yeah, you know, Fridays, it's an exciting day, and last week was a tough week. It's kind of like that hump week. It's our Wednesday, right? We're tired of inter-squatting, tired of doing bunt defense and single double cuts and stuff like that, and you know, getting through last week was the biggest obstacle, right? And keeping that enthusiasm and excitement. We had one bad day last week where we addressed it and they recovered very quickly. Now this week is really looking forward to Friday and just fine-tuning all these, you know, the small things, the lineup, the pitcher rotation, and when they're throwing and what the roles are going to be. So, but again, we've been going at this since August. It's not like it starts Friday. I mean, Friday is the first, I guess, measuring stick to see where we're at. And the Aggies are a very good team, and we're excited to have them down here. And I'm sure they're going to be real excited to have great weather to be outside for the first time. But for us, we started back in August.
You mentioned the pitching rotation. Based on scrutiny, it seems like it might be Nick, Griffin, and Wall. Is there official word on that rotation yet?
So yeah, it's absolutely right. We're going with Nick Roberts Friday night, then Griffin Hughes on Saturday, then Brian Walters on Sunday. That'll be our rotation for the first weekend. And we'll worry about Tuesday starter after the weekend and see where we're at with all that.
And then what went into the decision to put Griffin, transfer from Cincinnati, in between those two guys who are kind of your guys' best pitchers from last year coming back to the team?
Well, I think everyone has their own challenge, right? I think, you know, Nick Roberts had a really nice year for us last year. I've always said he was kind of pitching out of position. He is more of a starter as far as his repertoire, and he's more of a contact guy. And we put him in a situation where it wasn't probably the best situation for him to succeed, but he doubled it, great attitude, and he did give us a great effort and did a good job. But it's, you know, he's more fitted to be a starter, and he's got the most experience, crazy to say, with 30-some innings under his belt of the rotation guys, the starting rotation guys. You know, Griffin's coming into a new league, and he had some success at Cincinnati, but this is his first year he's a pitcher only. He was a two-way guy over at Cincinnati, so. And then Brian has never been stretched out last 4 innings. You know, this past Sunday he went 5 innings for the first time, and you could see, you know, it got to him that 5th inning. So coming off an injury, he got hurt really early his sophomore year through maybe an inning or two. Last year was limited in his innings as well. So that, you know, yeah, the stuff's there, and the name Walters, you know, you probably feel like he's been around forever. But most of those innings were by Andrew, and that's not Brian. So they all got their own obstacles to go with, and this is just what we felt like was the best rotation to go with in the beginning.
JD, you've been with the program for a while. You've been with the program for a while. Obviously, now this is another year as you as head coach. You know, what's been the biggest difference that you've seen, that you've taken from the previous season to now this year, of like even growing in that role as well?
My biggest thing with last year was the I guess the players and how to deal with the players and talk to the players. And it wasn't so much me. I was always the same, right? And I was always like the player coach as a pitching coach, and players always came to me, and that was the type of relationship I had. I was the same person last year, but I guess with the title change, there was a barrier there. The players they were just coming to me all the time. So I had to go out of my way to kind of, create that relationship with them. So again, we all learned, and I learned from a lot of mistakes last year, and that's something I've worked on more than ever this year. And we're really trying to keep that same type of relationship where it's a personal relationship first, and success in the field comes with that, right? That was always my key to my success as a pitching coach. And again, I didn't make any changes last year, but because of the title, I felt that the players reacted to me a little differently. So I've gone out of my way to kind of create that bond.
Coach, 6-6 last year in midweek games. Is there any sort of feeling around the team that maybe sometimes you're not even intentionally but playing down to opponents? And is there an emphasis on not doing that going into this year?
No, absolutely not. I think this year last year was just a pitching depth, and when you get in a situation where you don't really have a fourth starting pitcher, that guy probably should have been Nick Robert, but because of necessity, he's throwing out of the bullpens in the weekends. So you're kind of staffing it on a midweek, and with a lot of young guys with no experience, and our midweek games, FIU's a tough opponent, and FAU's a tough opponent, and UCF, and you go in there shorthanded on the mound, it makes it tough. So I think we're going to have a set number 4 starter, and again, a very, very deep bullpen that's going to help us out quite a bit in the weekdays. So with no doubt, those years that we were having good years and hosting a regional, I think we were averaging 10 wins on the weekdays, going 10-2, 11-1 at times. So you got to fight those weekends in the ACC. You better win those weekday games. So I think we're better suited and better prepared for those weekday games.
With Daniel Cuvée, obviously, a stellar freshman year. What have you seen maybe him improve on over the offseason? What can he improve on? How can he get better?
That's a tough one. That's they talk about the sophomore slump. And I think a lot of that is created by expectations and the need to. The mentality of the need to do more. He just has to be himself, and the moment you start pressing, whether it's after a great freshman year or it's your draft year, the moment you try to do more and be someone you're not, that's when the struggles come into play. So it's going to be, and look, he did not have a great fall offensively or early spring, but the last week and a half he's really starting to swing the bat a lot better. He's starting to drive the ball the other way. Like, when he's doing that, he's at his best. So he's getting hot at the right time.
Did a few more questions.
Coach, where have you seen the most progress from the end of fall through now?
Certain players. Fabio Peralta, since he stepped on campus, has had the biggest improvement as an individual player. Nick Robert, after again he had a really good freshman year, he's had huge improvement, especially in his secondary stuff, which is why he's kind of earned that Friday night spot. But again, we'll see those improvements and see the mentality once those roles are given. And our job is to get those guys in a position to succeed, right? We unfortunately could not do that for Nick last year because of the need, but I think we have enough pieces where we can put guys in the right places to be the best player.
Coach, last year going into the season, you wanted to put an emphasis on analytics. How has that kind of worked in 2024, and what new implementation of analytics are you
Well, it started in the summer. We tracked, our analytics team created a program that it tracked every player in Division I all season last year. So, and it ranked them every week, and those rankings, fluctuated, and our players were included in there so we had an idea of where they ranked amongst the players that might be going into the portal. So when that portal opened and players would go in, we knew right away if it's a yes or a no on the field. Then all we really have to do is do our homework off the field and try to do some makeup, background checks and stuff like that. That helped us tremendously, and I feel that's why we've got the right players. And then moving forward this year, we've got the new Kindertrack system, which I think only 3 teams in the ACC have that, maybe 6. Typical practice there. I think we're one of 3 teams in the ACC with a Kindertrack system, and maybe 6 or 7 in the country that have it. So that's a huge. Everybody claims to have a pitching lab, and it's building up to the side. Where our pitching lab is the game mound, and there's 18 cameras, 6 on the. I think the pitcher has 8, and the hitters have 8 cameras on every pitch that's thrown, every swing that you take. So it's the amount of research and the amount of analytics and the data that we're getting is better than anywhere else. And we also have Zach Rippick from across the street. He's a biomechanist that his job is the Kindertracks and scrubbing all that information down. You gotta understand, we've had a lot of this equipment for years, But even on the pitching side, I was in charge of the data stuff. I didn't know how to turn most of those machines on. I was just a pitching coach. So, but with the addition of Eddie Mestre and Jack Olszewski and Zach across the street, now we have a team that's their job. It's all data, and the reports are just on our desk and scrubbed down for us and explained to the child's language, so we understand what's going on. So it's been a huge advantage for us.
We have 2 more questions.
Coach, is there anything specific that you're looking for from the team
Friday's not much of a worry. I think everyone's going to come out and be ready to play. I think sustaining that excitement and that enthusiasm throughout, a 56-game regular season and the postseason, and really the postseason takes care of itself, right? As far as the excitement of wanting to be out here, but just the grind of a 56-game season, it's continuing to come out every day with that same attitude they've shown so far. There's no reason for me to believe that's not going to be the case. Like I said, you can probably count on one hand the amount of practices that we didn't show up to for whatever reason. But I'd like to see whatever excitement we bring on Friday for the next 55 games to be the same type of atmosphere.
Coach, 2 years ago, this program won 30 games at home. Last year, only 19. Have you stressed the importance of your team of how crucial it is to get series wins and just wins in total here at the Light to kind of create great energy and atmosphere as well as have the team go forward?
Home, on the road, neutral side, a win's a win. That's we're trying to win every game. We're trying to go 56-0. Understanding that's probably not going to happen. That's always our goal. And like I told the team, I think in a course of a 56-game season, you might have 10 games where you play a good game and you get beat because the other team played better. The key is those other 46 games not beating yourself. And if you're consistent and you play, the type of game that we can play, we should end up on top of those other 46 games. So. It's one game at a time, and the only game that really matters and that counts is this Friday.
Laz, who's your bullpen? Who's first out of the bullpen?
I mean, it depends the situation, right? I think, just piggyback on JD's comment about our pitching staff. We're deep, right? So we have several options. I mean, you could start with Carson Fisher. You could go to Reese Lumpkin. Freshman Mikey Fernandez, freshman AJ Siskar, and then once you get later in that game, you also have Will Smith, and in the 9th inning, as of right now, Jackson Cleveland is our closer.
And JD told us, opening rotation for the first weekend, Nick Robert, Griffin Hughes, and Brian Walters. 2 of those guys all of them are new to the rotation. So how does working with them and getting them ready for those roles? How's that been going?
I mean, I want to think it's gone well. These are, I would say, for our staff, it's a staff that is eager to learn and grow. One of its trademarks as well thus far has been super athletic. So some of these adjustments that could be difficult at times come a little easier to better athletes. And so when you do look at Griffin Hughes that played middle infield at Cincinnati, who's a 2-way player, he's a great athlete, right? So his ability to repeat his delivery for a sustained period of time becomes a little easier. The same thing with Brian Walters, right? And then, you go in that bullpen as well, a lot of athletes on the mound. Jackson Cleveland was also a 2-way player. So we're excited about the athleticism and just some of the natural abilities that they have.
And with Brian and Nick moving from the bullpen to the rotation, just how have they been working on getting built up?
Yeah, so our approach to building our pitchers' stamina and their ability to throw multiple innings starts in August. That's when they receive their program. The ramp up, which is, as we build them up, is slow and it's steady. And then once we're done with fall ball, they go into a short velo, which means that the throwing decreases a little, and then the ramp up starts again. So at no point since July 8th is when they got their throwing program, has that conditioning aspect of it stopped. It's been an ongoing process since July 8th.
Just a lot of turnover with the roster. I know that's sort of the name of the game now with IL, transfer portal, what have you. Just what have been the biggest challenges and what have you enjoyed about those challenges with basically learning a whole new group of guys?
Listen, you know, and I'm trying to find words because this group has been exceptional, right? And beyond what they show on the field on a daily basis, just the way they interact with each other. I mean, it's truly been refreshing, the way that they're with each other 24/7, the way they pick each other up, the gratitude and a certain level of awe for this place. It's been truly refreshing. And I think part of that is because it's an older group, you know, guys that maybe have performed well, but at the mid-major level. And so they have this great opportunity now to showcase their ability, not only at the Power 4 level, but at a legacy program like this. So it's been awesome. I think the challenge, you know, are things you can't control. Like, how are these guys that are going from different parts of the country going to be able to get along in a short period of time, right? You know, so I think as coaches and leaders, you have to find ways to build that cohesion and make sure those group dynamics are in place. But man, it came naturally to this group of guys.
Among the freshmen, who have been some of the guys who maybe caught your eye the most for the last, you know, couple months?
Yeah, you know, AJ Sisto, right-handed pitcher from St. Thomas Aquinas. His ability to really attack the zone, but truly his ability to command within the zone is at a very mature level. You have Michael Fernandez from Gaither High School up in Tampa. Stuff-wise, it's legit from the left-hand side. You're talking about a fastball that could get up to 94 with 2 put-away secondary pitches. You have Tate Darius, another big-time athlete from New Jersey as well, that his level of athleticism allows him to do certain things that maybe you don't see from a kid that's only a freshman. So those are guys that have caught my eye.
Coach, thinking back on something you just said a little bit ago, I wonder what's the correlation between teams where the players get along really well, how that may or may not correlate to winning, and maybe teams where guys bicker and they're different personalities, and maybe they win too. I don't know. What do you find about that, your experience in the game?
You know, I think that's that's $1 million question, right? It's difficult to see. It's a soft skill. You can't measure it. But I could tell you, at least in my experience, and especially, you know, my time in professional baseball in particular with the Red Sox in 2013 and then to 2018, those were 2 completely different teams. But the one thing they had in common was that chemistry amongst themselves and their group was incredible, and it really stood out. And then as you follow those 2 groups, in 2014, that chemistry wasn't the same. You know, you had older guys that were on their last year in their contracts, so maybe their focus had changed. And then 2019, again, the chemistry had changed some. And you know, both of those years, 14 and 19, we finished last in the American League East. So again, it could be confirmation bias, it could be the performance coach in me or the mental skills coach. But I do think that dynamic and that chemistry is critical.
From last week's edition, what are some things you learned from the coach versus didn't help a lot this year?
Yeah, listen, I think the landscape of college baseball has changed so much, specifically at the Division I level. That really stood out to me last year. You know, obviously I had scouted for the Red Sox, so I was here. I was a student athlete here, but again, different times, late 90s. As a scout, you see it from the outside looking in. And then I had a quick stop at Nova Southeastern University, Division II. This level is so unique. And the one thing that really stood out to me was, aside from talent, you know, you need depth. And if we saw some of the better teams in the ACC, you know, it wasn't 2 or 3 guys in that lineup that you had to concern yourself with. It was all 9 guys, right? So how long that lineup or how deep that lineup was. And then as it pertained to the pitching staff, you saw how these guys were able to go to the bullpen and there wasn't a drop-off, right? So I think those are some of the things that we really took into account as we were putting this roster together, and not only focusing on getting the best players possible, but to ensure that we were deep.
Two more questions for Coach.
Coach, with the way offense is in college baseball now, you have performing pitchers with ERAs over 5. You, as someone who obviously deep into the mental game, how do you kind of keep their confidence and deal with the fact that even with great pitchers, the ball's flying out of the ballpark?
Yeah, and listen, these kids aren't new to that, right? They're growing up in this era where even in high school, they're being taught to just swing up and hit the long ball, right? So our guys, again, they've been exposed to that. So I think number one, that helps us. But I think number two, one of the things that we preach constantly is, good teams are teams that are able to minimize damage and maximize opportunities, right? So just because we do give up a home run or a couple of runs doesn't mean that it's a bad outing, right? So continuing to message that and preach that, how do we do a good job minimizing damage as a pitching staff, so that hopefully that allows us not to get caught up in giving up a long ball.
Last question.
Coach, it may be too early to tell, but in these next few weeks, which team do you see giving you most of the challenge compared to other teams?
So I had that train behind, so hopefully I heard you correctly. So what team do I see that would give us the most challenge? God, as soon as the first draft of that schedule came out, I said, holy cow. I would hate to just identify one team. It's a tough schedule. Even this weekend, Niagara, regional club, we got FAU, solid club, and then, then you got UConn, you got Florida, and then you have your ACC schedule. It's a tough schedule, and I think, just going back to a couple questions ago, that's why depth is so critical, right? Aside from having talent, we got to make sure that roster's deep and we're able to post, 4 times, and sometimes 5 times a week. So, hopefully we achieve that goal. We feel good about that.
Coach, Daniel Couvet obviously had an amazing season last year.
Right.
What have you seen him working on the most this offseason, and how can he even get better after that season?
Right. I think that, what we try to talk about with him is, if you're going to try to outdo what you've done in the past, especially last year, I think is where you cause some problems, right? Some issues. So I think for him was, look, mentally, where are you, right? Like, are you trying too hard, or and so for us, for me, especially for him, was, how mentally can you just keep it in there and keep doing the same thing you've done that made you successful? I'm not trying to rewrite his swing or rewrite what he's done in the past. So.
A lot of turnover, a lot of new guys on the team. Just who are a few of the guys who have excelled to you between fall ball and what you guys doing leading up to?
Right. As far as players, Max Galvin's been a bright light, I think. Todd Hudson, Williams. We again, I think just hearing Laz and obviously JD, just the depth that we've had, I think, within our lineup, I think it's really helped us. But the guys have come in and they've worked hard. Jake Ogden is another guy who's solid, not only defensively but obviously offensively, and I think he's going to really help us. So.
Coach, with Hudson switching from two-way to now hitter only, the size, athleticism, how have you worked with him, and what do you see with him?
Yeah. Trying to. I'm a big guy, so for me, and working with him, it's always nice because a lot of things I see in him, I see in myself as well. So just trying to minimize, trying to keep him clean. I think that's a word that we use a lot. Not trying to overdo it. I think a lot of these guys, he said, they come from mid-majors, they come from smaller schools, they want to try and hit the long ball and trying to do it that way, where for us and for me, hey man, just minimize. Let's put the ball in play. I think with him, the power is going to come as long as he puts the ball in play and he knows what he's doing and keeps everything clean.
Coach, last time you were at Miami, it was a 3-year stint at Dominguez as the head coach. What do you take from that time that you might have not known or learned in your first year at Miami a couple of years ago to now?
Yeah. The COVID year I was just talking to one of our assistants. The COVID year was tough, right? A lot of change, a lot of different things that we couldn't do. Fans were minimized. So I think even media day, we didn't have it, that year. And so I think for me, just going through a round of that helps. Obviously, at a big school like Miami, I grew up watching this school, so I know the expectations here. but also being a head coach before, I think has helped me, and also how to talk to players, and how to get into their heads, and what are hopefully the important things we need to work on. I think that's really helped. But yeah, I think all the experiences always help.
Coach, two more if we have.
Coach, can you talk to me about Dorian a little bit, one of the longest tenured members of this team?
Yeah.
He certainly, I think, last year was kind of forced to go into that leadership role, but this year maybe even more. Can you talk to me about his role within the team, both in the lineup, but also just in the clubhouse?
Yeah. It's all, especially with a lot of new guys that we have this year, right? So you got an older guy who's been part of the old regime, and then now the new regime, even though JD's been here forever. But absolutely, right? It's a bright spot in what you're teaching and what you're trying to teach. Also the expectations of the program. Also, just telling guys, hey, you got to be up for our schedule, right? Like, you got to be ready. You got to stay focused the whole entire time. So when you have a guy like that who you don't have to coach up a lot and can help be an extra coach in the locker room, it helps, man. It helps. So I think that's been his major bright spot, but also he's a good player, man. So he's going to really help us.
Coach Mikey Torres, known for his defense, obviously. I've seen him hitting seems to pick up a little bit. What have you been working on with him?
Oh man, again, he's a guy who from the fall, not that he struggled, but again, you're learning new things. You're young. Defensively, he's been elite. I mean, it's one of the most elite defenders I've ever seen. But offensively, we're facing some good pitching. We have good depth. So I think for him, just understanding his swing, understanding his body, hey man, for him hitting the ball on the ground, it's important when he has two strikes or maybe facing a tough pitcher. I think just for him not looking overmatched, I think was one of the things, and he's done a great job. And like you said, over the last 3 weeks, he's been really good and he's been practicing really well. So I'm excited to see what he does throughout the season.